Okay, I just want to thank the media for being here today, and I will have a few formal remarks, and then I can open it up to a few questions if needed. I call this press conference today outside an empty City Hall to discuss the Mayor's recent response to the September 10th, 2009 invitation by the League of Women Voters for a mayoral debate to be offered on October 20th or 22nd. As mentioned, I have accepted the debate by the League and will also attend the Chamber of Commerce debate to be held on October 14th during the workday with a cost of $45 per attendee. As a Danbury resident and taxpayer who was born, raised, and educated in Danbury, I consider the Mayor's response that he had not received the invitation, that his schedule was filling up, and that enough other forums were scheduled totally unacceptable. It is a display of arrogance and power by the Mayor to the voters and taxpayers of Danbury, who have a right to hear the opposing views of the candidates in an open and no-cost forum. It further reflects the fact that the Mayor is not the same candidate who took office 8 years ago, when people believed his slogan of "people over politics." The excuses offered by the Mayor are a slight to the League of Women Voters, a storied organization whose trademark is all about fair play in our democracy, and to the Portuguese Cultural Center, who has offered their facilities to the voters of Danbury free of charge for the debate. I question what the Mayor was afraid of for not debating. Could it be the 8 straight years of tax increases coupled with the long-term debt acquired by significant expenditures? Could it be the recent News Times article stating the failing grades for some of our schools? And by the way, while the Mayor may blame the school board, under my administration, the buck stops with me as Mayor. Could it be the continued deterioration of our quality of life in the city, accentuated by a decrease in city services and choking traffic congestion? Or could it be perhaps the other behind-the-scenes issues well kept from public scrutiny, such as the lawsuit brought against the city by civil service job applicants who claim to have been passed over illegally and the questionable practices involved in that specific civil service exam cycle? Whatever the reason, the facts must be discussed in an open forum so that taxpayers and voters of Danbury can make an informed decision on November 3rd. Thank you. And now if there's any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them.
What are you hoping to debate?
I'm hoping to debate many of the things, Jillian, that I just discussed. The increased taxes over the last 8 years in Danbury, the $228 million in bonding that this Mayor has gotten through. And again, I don't care about what the net number is, because frankly, whatever net number there was, we're paying the state in taxes. We're all taxpayers, and whatever he spent, we're paying as taxpayers. I want to talk about the quality of life in the city. As I mentioned, the downtown is woefully in need of cleanup, and I want to talk about the education in Danbury. Our schools maybe edged up a little bit this year in the CMT scores, but as everyone knows, we had a significant early retirement, and which really changed the face of the schools in the Danbury Public Schools. So I'm concerned about all these issues, and there's many, many more that we need to discuss. And I think, again, as I mentioned, the city is exposed through this and other lawsuits to potential settlements that will only incur costs to the taxpayers and residents of Danbury.
You mentioned taxes. What would you do to rein them in?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do is step back and take a look at how the city departments are conducting their affairs. What I've done in the corporate world is we've done what we call process modeling, where we look at exactly what activities each employee does within each specific department and decide on how we can make efficiencies in those processes, as well as eliminate bottlenecks and also take a look at what the pain points in those processes are.
Now, as far as the comment on the mayor, the current mayor, saying that his schedule was filling up, and the other proposals that have been on the table, what do you feel personally, Gary, that should be the premise as far as the change and how this election is being run and the past previous elections, as far as the public getting access to having the debate, just like you mentioned?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, from what I've observed in the past, I think the mayor is using some of the same language as he has in years past. He would not attend the League of Women Voters last year. He told somebody from the Portuguese Cultural Center that he was not interested in it, or 2 years ago, I should say. So I think a lot of his words are very consistent with what he said in the past. And again, I think it's quite honestly, a slap in the face to the voters of Danbury, who have a right to hear the current mayor and the opposing candidate and what their views are on this election.
Now, the Tribuna is sending out this week a formal invitation for you as a Democratic candidate and to him as a Republican candidate to have an open forum, 600 words, to be able to print whatever you guys want to say to the greater population, specifically the immigrant community, and trying to engage them in the debate. Now, I know that you have a couple of efforts that you're working with those communities as far as having people that speak other languages in your camp and other things like that. What is your approach to engaging the non-Anglo community, immigrant community, the new immigrant community, so to speak, the Ecuadorians, the Brazilians? What are you working to do to engage them into this debate, in this election this year?
Well, again, the debates will be free to any citizen of Danbury or resident of Danbury. What I've done specifically, again, Danbury was built by immigrants. When my grandparents came to this country as Portuguese and Sicilian immigrants, they were prejudiced against in the early days, and had to overcome that prejudice to contribute to the successful society that we have today, both in Danbury and across the country. And what I have done as far as a candidate, as you had said, Emanuela, put together a component of my campaign specifically to reach out to the different and diverse communities of this city, to engage them in their own languages as well as in English, and promote things like voter registration and getting out and voting on Election Day, again, which is a precious right, I believe, something that cannot be minimized, because as far as I'm concerned, if people don't vote for me, that's fine, but they should be voting on Election Day, because it's a right that we have garnered because so many of our fellow countrymen have given up all their tomorrows so that we have the right to vote in an open and free election. And I have been, just one more thought, Dirk, sorry. I have been attending many different cultural events throughout the city, cultural fairs, dinners, and other cultural events. And again, I have a track record of multicultural skills, which has come about through my involvement with my company, General Reinsurance, and I've had the occasion to travel the world. And I've seen firsthand and experienced the beauty of other cultures and lifestyles.
Gary, I just wanted to ask, when you mentioned the chamber event, it's $45 a person, and it occurs during the workday. I know one of the other forums being held is the forum for the firefighter union members.
Yeah.
Were you sort of implying that a lot of these events that the mayor was quoted as saying filling up the schedule are not necessarily open to the general public? It's not somewhere where Joe Smith can go to hear what's going on?
No, I'm not going to imply that it's not open to the general public. I just believe that as a member of the general public, it's difficult to take time off from work to attend a forum like this. And quite honestly, Dirk, with the economy that we're in today, $45 is not an inexpensive item. And again, something as important as a mayoral debate, I think, has to be free and has to be held in a facility where many residents and citizens can come and listen to the opposing views.
How many debates are we talking about here? Open public debates would you like to do with the mayor?
Well, right now, the chamber debate and the League of Women Voters are the only two public debates that I'm aware of. I will be speaking before the firefighters. I have spoken to the Fraternal Order of Police, but I believe events like that are more that I speak one night and the mayor may speak another night or at a different time. So it's not a it's not a debate type setting.
And you talked about City Hall in your initial remarks. remarks, it being closed, do you have if you were mayor, would you, I know that Mayor Boughoton closed the City Hall on Friday, and for a period of time he closed the public library on Friday. What are your thoughts on that? Or you can elaborate
Well,
on that?
Al, I mean, again, you know, I just have to believe that, you know, the place like City Hall, a place like the Danbury Public Library, has to be completely accessible to the citizens of this town. As you can see, as we're standing here within the last 15-20 minutes, a number of people have come to City Hall and you know, tried to pull open a locked door. So these are services, city services, that have decreased under this administration, and I would, you know, look to open these things. Certainly, it's not too much to expect for a city hall to be open 5 days a week during the work days. And I've come here myself on Fridays, taken time off from work, and I work out of town to come here and conduct business, and have been, you know, again, turned away. And in the library, I might say that it's not only the children and the parents who have suffered by those reduced hours, but also in this economy there are a lot of people who are out of work who depend on those library computers to actually search for jobs. So again, I think it's another valuable city institution that has to be kept open, and that's my opinion, and I will work toward you know, increasing those hours should I be fortunate enough to win this election.
Gary, some of these steps taken by the Boughoton administration has been titled as cutting back on city expenses, trying to save the city money. And we know in politics, there's only it's sort of like a two-way street. Either you cut, you know, budgets and you decrease services, or you increase taxes. So how would you deal? Let's say, stepping forward, you're the mayor of Danbury. Which solution is more lenient? Cutting services, increasing taxes? How would you deal with that?
Well, you know, there's only a few ways to deal with deficits, and that's either to, you know, increase taxes, borrow money, or, you know, decrease city services. I'm not in favor of any of those. I am in favor of seeking efficiencies in the city departments, and again, as I said, the processes that city employees conduct. I think we need to be concerned about, as we are in the business world, about the costs of services that we deliver. You know, in the business world, we call it the cost of goods sold. You know, how much does it actually cost us to fill a pothole, for instance, is a very, very simple example. Because those things, you know, when we can have those types of metrics, we can decide on whether it's more expedient, more cost-effective to fill a few potholes in a road, or, you know, take a whole section of that road and pave it. And that's just one example. I think one of the problems has been that this administration has bonded so significantly as to cause us to spend almost $14 million a year in this current budget cycle. And that $14 million, you know, a good portion of that could be spent to keep educators in the classroom, could be spent to keep City Hall open on Fridays, and could be spent to further increase the hours of operations of our public library. So I am against, by the way, and I've said this, I'm against the big ticket expenditures. For instance, the police department, which was needed, but I don't think to the grand scale in which it was built. I think, you know, we could have saved money there, and again, apportioned it to more critical city services. And I'm a big proponent, as I've said, of keeping educators in the classroom, because our children today are competing for jobs in this country with very bright and very well-educated students from other countries across the globe. And I've been to those countries, and I can tell you firsthand that these children are very well schooled, very bright, and very hungry for jobs in this country.
One last question for me. You talked about bonding. It seems like it's going to be a centerpiece of your campaign, and I know that last year, something that you brought up, and I know the Democrats in the Common Council brought up last year, was the allocation of $500,000 bonds.
Yeah.
That was done to the tune of $2.5 million without it going to approval. That was the first time that was done in Danbury. Why was that such a bad thing, just to do bonding in that manner?
Well, you know, the city charter, which was last revised in 1991, our bonding attorney, who's been our bonding attorney since that time, had always held fast that the most we could bond in a single year without going to the taxpayers was $500,000. And somehow, out of magic, the mayor was able to get that same bonding attorney to render a decision that it was acceptable to float multiple $500,000 bonds in a year without going for public approval. I'm against that. I believe the charter revisions this time around allow for more expenditure, maybe which are commensurate with the times we're in the economy. Maybe 500,000 wasn't enough, but to me, I think that the charter was very clear, and frankly, I've shown that the charter to outside counsel, outside bonding attorneys, and they believe the wording in that charter was very clear to the fact that the most we could bond in a single year without going to the public for approval was one single $500,000. So I strongly object to what the mayor did last year in floating the $500,000 bonds without public approval.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. Some of the bonding that the current mayor has done has resulted in a parking garage, improvements to parks, a new school, a new police station. How would you handle those things differently in terms of bonding?
Well, I think some of the infrastructure things and some of the beautification of the city, I think we need to spend money on. And again, it comes down to whether we have to actually bond for that money, or can we be more efficient in the way we conduct our affairs on a daily basis and provide city services. Again, I got a question. The tax increases, for 8 straight years. The bond indebtedness and what we've gotten for that as taxpayers, and I'm a taxpayer and you all are taxpayers, we've gotten a decrease in city services. So, there's a lot of money being spent. The city budget has increased in the last 7 years from $149 million to $202 million. So $53 million over 7 years, which is about an average of, let's say, $7 million a year, $8 million a year. Where is all this money going? I mean, I don't have the advantage with me today, the finance director, to sit and pour through these numbers, but I can tell you that we're going to take a very much harder look at some of these expenditures and where the money is actually going. And I will say that I am a very fiscally conservative person and a very conservative Democrat. And, things like tax increases and bond expenditures of a significant nature resonate with me, and I'm sure they resonate with the citizens of Danbury. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it, and I hope you weren't too cold.